Welcome everyone to Beyond Horizons. We have another fabulous episode here, and I have a very special guest, Eeka King. She's a doctor of Chinese medicine, and I'm absolutely fascinated with what she does with frequencies and healing. And this is what we're all about on this channel is exploring beyond the normal realms and opening our minds to things that exist that are beyond, yeah, the normal. So, hi Ika, thanks for being on.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
Wonderful, wonderful. And yeah, I'd love to just jump into how you actually came across this style of healing and yeah, how it's changed your life, I guess.
Okay, so I guess I got initiated into esoteric and mystical arts from a young child, and my first modality I studied was astrological therapeutic counseling when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
And yeah, that gave me a really great insight into archetypes and my blueprint and, my soul's mission here. And I really, from that exploration of my psyche, recognized that I was really here to work in the healing realms and the teaching realms. So after that study, I went into more energy based healing modalities and then physical therapies like remedial massage and Chinese tuina.
Mhm.
And yeah, I started having acupuncture at the student clinic where I was studying massage. And I really fell in love with the philosophy of Chinese medicine, which recognizes that dis-ease is an imbalance of energetic flow within the body, and we have basically an energetic network, a grid system, a meridian system that when is imbalanced causes our organ systems to not operate at their full capacity, and symptoms can result. So I really loved that philosophy compared to the Western model, which sees the body more like a machine. And when something is broken, we cut it out or mask the symptoms. So from there, I enrolled in the study of Chinese medicine, which was a 4-year degree. And
Wow. Mhm.
yeah, I started to work in that arena, and being the forever student, after I finished that, I was like, oh, what am I going to do next? And my old astrology teacher contacted me. She had teamed up with a famous American astrologer, Alan Oken, and they were offering a masterclass series in Australia. This was back in 2007. So I delved back into astrology world again, and my passion was just, yeah, greatly reignited. And I felt like I had these two very separate passions, the Chinese medicine and the astrology. And I never quite seen how they would merge. It just felt, these two separate things that I did. And anyway, not long after that, I started to have some experiences with the power of sound, which really opened me up. And some of these were on other dimensional levels. And I can get into the story a little bit later if you like. But from there, not long after those experiences with sound, I had an experience with a woman who'd been to America, and she was requesting to come and work in my acupuncture clinic. And she had these tuning forks. And she's like, oh, they're all tuned to the different planets, you know, Mars, Venus, and they all have different correspondences. And my interest just exploded because I immediately just had a knowing of Mars and that it ruled the blood and the adrenal glands and the muscles, and just could see how it could be applied to the body.
That's fascinating. Can I interrupt for a minute? So you're saying
Yeah,
that the planets in our galaxy, in our solar system, actually align with parts on our body.
correct.
Okay, can you give an example of a couple of others?
Hmm. Yeah. So as above, so below, you know, we are basically a miniature universe. If we think of the sun, you know, the sun is our heart. And just like in the macrocosm, we have all the planets circulating the sun, all having their own tone and their own signature. So too in our body do we have these archetypal aspects in revolution within our system around the center, the sun, which is the heart. So the sun rules the heart in medical astrology, and it rules the spine, and it rules our passion and purpose and our path. So our sun sign does represent, you know, an area of growth for us as a soul when we look at astrology. And the sun sign that we come in with is really all about what brings the soul joy and bliss. So we can use the sun frequency from the tuning fork to not just work with heart conditions and the spine and the back, which it rules physically, but we can use it to connect people to their path and their passion and, you know, the confidence of who they are and what they're shining in this lifetime.
Amazing. Yeah,
So that's
right.
another example.
So all the planets align with a different chakra. Do you find, I've just noticed working on people myself, that people have a lot of sacral and root issues?
Absolutely. I think grounding, you know, not being grounded and having those lower chakras really stable and activated and anchored is really the most important thing. And I think you're right in that there's a lot of people going around with that base energy really quite disconnected from the earth. You know, the lower chakras are really absorbing energy from the earth, and a lot of people are living in a very disconnected way from the earth and therefore not receiving that continual sustenance from our mother, you know, our mother Gaia, where we are.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
it's like the roots of a tree, you know, the lower chakras are the roots that anchor and ground us. And if they're not grounded, you know, we can't really have access to the full capacity of our higher centers, you know, and any little thing comes along and the branches are blown off and the tree falls down, you know.
My gosh, you sound like me. This is exactly what I say and what I'm so passionate about is we are like a tree of life, and the roots of our tree go down into the earth. And I've noticed, yeah, working on people that they are separated. Beautifully said how you said it. And you know, how a lot of people are also very stuck on ascension, you know, I must ascend more, I must ascend more and become more into my spiritual gifts. And it's like, but hang on, you're not anchoring, you're not in balance, you're not anchoring in those spiritual gifts, you're not anchoring in those ideas, you're not. And so you see a lot of people not following through with their goals or their passions or even their abundance, like not being able to bring that in their abundance. So I love that we're talking
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So what I want to find out what actually brought you into healing. Like, what was it about healing that you, through your life? Yeah, sorry, I'll rephrase that. What um inspired you to take up healing others?
Okay. So I I did come in to this lifetime, I think, quite a sensitive psychic soul. Um, I would often have just knowings about things, but I also chose to be born into an experience with a lot of contrast. And I had a father who was very, very unwell. I was in a split family, and my father was a horrendous alcoholic, and he was physically and mentally unwell. And yeah, I could really see, my young teenage years, how the mind body connection and how his thoughts and his emotions were really contributing to his disease. So I started to study a lot of books around 14 about the mind body connection, and yeah, spirituality, and just gaining a deeper insight so I could understand what was going on with him. So you could say it was really inspired because I wanted to heal my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I was 16, he was going through liver failure, and I was basically his primary carer. He didn't really have anyone else, and I was watching him die, slowly dying, and it was very, very lucky. But one time I seen him, I could see this aura of death around him, and I was like, oh my God, I think this is the last time I'm going to see him. And I kind of prayed and prayed. And I did receive a phone call from the hospital that a liver had come in that matched his blood type, and had to get him to the hospital as soon as I could. And yeah, he ended up getting what they call the Genghis Khan liver, the best liver they'd ever seen.
Ah,
So I nursed him through that whole experience of having a liver transplant and getting another life. He had about 9 lives, that man.
mhm.
And so yeah, that was definitely the inspiration. There was definitely a big desire for me to heal my father, and who I loved. But yeah, I think the biggest journey and lesson in my healing experience is that you can't heal somebody who's not ready and doesn't choose that.
Mm.
So that was a huge thing for me, because I never did really get to, yeah, accomplish that mission.
Yeah. And how profound, though, look at you now healing others and teaching others and coming across this modality. It's quite a profound journey. You should be so proud of yourself. It's very inspirational to go from that into the healing. And there's a little couple of similarities. I had that with my mother also. So that
Mhm.
brought me into the healing arts. So it's interesting that you say this. And I guess I never really reflected on it that much, why it drew me as well. But similar, like my mum was deteriorating in front of my eyes. And it's almost
Mm.
like her soul made that decision, and it didn't matter what I did to try and fix her. She was just on that path of
Yeah,
her time. And I mean, what's the saying? You can't lead a horse to water and make it drink. So it really is such a profound experience going through that, isn't it?
it sure is. Yeah. So, at the time it was, you could say, yeah, what some of the most challenging experiences of my life, that journey. But it's also been the greatest gift, uh,
Mm.
because it put me on this path, and it did give me so much foundation on such a deep level to
Mm.
work with people and to, you know, yeah, yeah,
Mm.
experience all aspects of going through, crisis, experience, so that
Mhm.
you can really be there to hold others in that.
You can hold space for others in all of their shadow and light, can't you, when you've held space for someone going through that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
amazing. So you use these forks to heal people, and they're aligned with the different planets. But I remember you saying that you were tuning into Nibiru. How you
Ah, yes. So, yeah, the Acutonics Institute developed this whole system of healing back in 1997. So it's been going for a long time, and it's now all around the world. But yeah, there's many, many great minds of antiquity who have contributed to the development of us being able to hear, feel, and experience our planetary tones and frequencies. And the first being Pythagoras,
Mm.
and yeah, many other great minds that I can talk about. But Donna, who was one of the creators of Acutonics and had this system, inspired within her to bring through for humanity at this time. She also calculated additional orbital frequencies of not just our main planets, which come from another mathematician, the calculations. But yeah, so they calculated Chiron, Nibiru, and the asteroid goddesses. So it was really interesting because I first started to delve into Nibiru when I did the training with them about 10 years ago.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And like what happens when you're sort of on the right path with something, yeah, it was a massive initiation learning about Nibiru because it was a whole reawakening to history and the origins of humanity and where we've really come from.
So we're talking Annunaki, we're talking the Nephilim, the
Yeah.
Angelics. Yeah, and there's a lot of misconception around this that Nibiru is evil, but there is a bit of a split uh, perception of the place. So I'd like to know your experience when you're using that energy. What do you use
Yeah.
it for?
Sure. I'd like to go into that a little bit because it is something that has been coming up a lot more in the last few years because a lot more people are starting to learn about this, but just getting little bits of information and not really getting the whole picture. So then, I have a small amount of people who are like, oh, I don't want to use this frequency. But, ultimately Nibiru represents, because I think to really talk about the frequency and how it's used, to give a little bit of background about Nibiru and how, it has been something spoken about in all cultures around the world. It's written about in the Bible. And it is a planet that is rotating another star called Nemesis. And it's known as a brown dwarf. So about 90% of the stars in our solar system are what they call in a binary system. So we have our sun, and then there's another star, and they kind of go like this around each other. So they're magnetically in this binary circular movement with each other. And so our sun has all of the planets circulating and rotating around it. And Nemesis has planets circulating around it. And Nibiru is the outermost circulating orbiting planet of that star system. And it was pushed into our orbit. So all of our planets are on this one slice of plane within, space. But Nibiru comes in on this completely other plane, sort of, instead of just rotating along around a circular plane, it's coming on this other orbit trajectory. And it rotates our sun it takes 3,600 years to orbit. So every 3,600 years, we are having Nibiru coming closer to the planet.
Okay.
So in the Bible, Nibiru is known as, let's get rid of that. The beings from Nibiru are known as the Annunaki or the Nephilim. And, the story goes that they, on one of their orbits, they found Earth and discovered that Earth had a lot of gold and needed gold to heal their atmosphere. So they started mining, and at that time the Earth was inhabited by the Homo erectus beings, and they mixed their DNA. Well, Enki did. He was the master geneticist, and he didn't get approval from his father Anu, which is the head honcho, but he just loved creation. He loved creating things, and they wanted to create a being that was a bit more evolved, you could say, to control. And so they mixed the DNA of the Homo erectus with their DNA to create the Homo sapien. So all of a sudden in history, the Homo sapiens appeared out of nowhere. And the scientists have been like, well, we've got we were given an option that, we evolved from apes, but basically it would have taken millions of years for the evolution of the Homo erectus to the Homo sapien. And they've just appeared out of nowhere at the same time. And, the other story is that Adam and Eve, appeared in the Garden of Eden out of nowhere. But, who is Adam and Eve? And Adam and Eve is actually the first Homo sapiens that Enki created that were able to reproduce.
Mm-hmm.
So Nibiru really rules our DNA. It is part of us. And the Nibiru frequency is used to basically affect or speak to all parts of our DNA. So if people are having, genetic conditions, I've got this genetic condition and I've got that, we could use Nibiru frequency to basically speak to it and shut off that genocode. So this kind of goes into the modern day epigenetics theory that, we can have specific genes, but it's our environment and our thoughts and our emotions that affect the turning on of certain geno imbalances. So we can, consciously speak to our genes and our DNA. And on the higher level, Nibiru, we can use that frequency to activate, latent DNA, to elevate and lighten our being. So can be used to really basically increase the capacity of our whole system.
Would you say that it activates dormant DNA?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, amazing. And so I've seen right into my past lives and into this whole Annunaki, Nephilim, which is part of my soul's journey, which I was one. And I remember this, and I remember coming to Earth and doing these things. And I remember they weren't a bad being. There were good and bad in these beings that came down. There's just like humans, there's light and there's dark. They're not an evil race. And yeah, they are responsible for our creation and the creation of mankind. So yeah, I think there is a lot of misinformation out there that Nibiru is evil and that these Nephilim are evil. And but like you said, it's in the Bible. It's part of our whole creation story. So, and it's carved into all of the carvings around the world.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. And I 100% agree with you in that I think every species in our galaxy, there's contrast of energetics and there's growth and there's journey. So, what we judge as bad or evil may not necessarily be that way. And I think where people get caught up is, the Nephilim are a hierarchical system. And because they live for so long, they have rulership for eons. So that, like, for example, one lifetime of one Annunaki is that they live for 120 Shah, 120 Nibiru years. And one Nibiru year for us is 3,600 Earth years.
Oh,
So,
over. Yeah, exactly. And this is
so
yeah,
120 times 3,600 is 432,000 years. That's their average lifespan. And that's why they were known as the gods, because, at times when they first were setting up civilization here, they had particular Anunnaki beings that would be ruling and residing over places of the earth for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years at a time. And, they are very, very evolved. And that's why they were called the gods, because they could shapeshift and they could, perform extraordinary feats. And, a lot of them were healers and powerful, powerful magicians. And like Enki, he absolutely loved humanity and he wanted to save humanity at every turn because we were his creation and he loved us. It's unfortunate that, the earth was left under the rulership of what they call the demigods or the half-bloods that I don't know if you do you know much about that aspect of
Only what
the
I've experienced through my own soul lineage. So
yeah.
that, the greed took over and the demigods had to split someone into hiding. And then you're talking about the Grail bloodlines then, the ones that went into hiding. That's what I remember and what I see. Um, yeah. And that's, that goes down Isis, Hathor, like all of those bloodlines.
Yeah.
Went underground where the ones were ruling that were more in the energy of greed and slavery and
Hmm.
using people for their own advantage. I did actually delve into some ancient texts, Sumerian texts the other day, and I was looking, and it was interesting because the very first texts, the kings were ruling for 3,000 years.
Hmm.
And it's actually recorded there, and that doesn't make sense to any of our history, really. So when we
Yeah.
start unraveling and having a look at that, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's Anunnaki. Um, ruling there, 3,000 years for each king.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know. I kind of feel like Nibiru, and especially because it is coming closer in its orbit now, is a really potent frequency to be using to integrate our psyche. Integrate the left-right brain, integrate. I think integration and integrating that energy within us, because when they did create us, they didn't activate the whole 12 strands.
Hmm.
But we do have the potential there. That's why so many. It's an interesting story, but there's many. I don't know. This is my opinion too, and just from some of the experiences and research I've done. But on some other star systems like Pleiades and Sirius, they only have the potential to evolve to a certain dimensional level, and that isn't up to the 12th dimension and beyond. And the reason why so many beings and star people from other, planetary systems have chosen to incarnate back here on Earth in this lower dimensional experience right now is because we actually have the architecture to activate and evolve to the 12th dimension and beyond, which a lot of beings from other systems don't have. So they gave us the architecture, which wasn't completely switched on properly. And other beings from other planets over the last couple of hundred years have been slowly helping to activate different and using some of their techniques to activate the particular coding within us as well. But yeah, so from the architecture that we were given from the Anunnaki, we actually have that potential to experience 12th dimension and beyond, like Jesus did. So he was, the one that we know who experienced that and was able to go to the full light dimensions, from 12th beyond, which some other beings from other planets have not been able to do.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's the whole concept of Jesus is within us, like we're the children of God. And it's interesting, this number 12. So when I go right back into my soul and where it came from, it was a split off from source, and you've got the 12 again. The 12 happens in this Fibonacci sequence. I think that's what I can see.
Mhm.
But then you've got the 12, so you've got the 12 chakras as well, don't you?
Yeah.
And then you've got the 12 archangels,
And the 12 meridians,
12 meridians, 12. What about
12
planets?
planets, 12
12
planets.
planets. There we go. See, yeah. The 12.
Nibiru is known as the 12th planet.
Uh-huh. Oh my God, I'm getting lit up while we're talking about all this so much. Yeah, so this is what I see in my history, in my DNA, and in my journeys. And it's interesting also when we talk about star races coming down. So a lot of star seeds are getting walk-ins, or they're being born awake with their souls from these planets.
Hmm.
So you've got the Pleiadians, they're great at healing. You've got the Arcturians, they're great at bringing knowledge through from high dimensions. They're like the speakers, they're the knowledge bringers. And then you've got, well, what I consider myself Alpha Draco, which
Hmm.
I feel is very much in line with the Anunnaki.
Yeah.
And that's more about dimensions,
Hmm.
time. Yeah, so it's really interesting everything that's transpiring now, and I totally resonate with you saying that you can awaken the 12 strands. So
Mm.
do you, is that with your work, is that the modality though that you're healing the body and you're helping people ascend? Is that really what's going on with these forks, with these frequencies?
Yeah, I could say it's really contributing to the evolution of consciousness. Yeah, and the raising of the vibration, because I think when we, I look at the body like everything's vibrating, everything's making sound, every cell is. And I look at disease as parts of the body have gone out of tune. And the more we can get the whole body moving and circulating and vibrating in a harmonious fashion, the more the being's able to actually receive from the universe, receive from the earth, and receive from the heavens. So it's like bringing the body into balance. And, we can have the intention to, for evolution, but on a deeper level, I feel that the more you get somebody just into vibrational balance, natural evolution occurs as well.
I love that. So plugging back in harmony.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to touch on as well, is the harmony of the spheres, which Pythagoras talks about. And so we've got the harmony of the planets, which he says are celestial bodies. So they're not just a dense bit of matter that's a planet. Like each one of these has a vibration and a soul and a spirit. And they're all, the harmony of the spheres is how the harmony of the universe works, like in this beautiful symphony.
Yeah. So, yeah, he was the first one to predictably assume that as the planets are rotating the sun, they're making sound, and that there's basically a celestial symphony occurring around us in every single moment.
Beautiful. Mm.
Yeah. Do you have an idea? So if there is like this musical symphony happening around you right now, why do you think you can't hear it in this very moment? Or people? Why do you think people may not just be able to perceive this celestial music?
Probably their disconnection, maybe not opening up all their abilities, but maybe because they're not in harmony with it as well. When I tune
Mm,
into it, it's like a hear, feel, you can hear it and feel it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I can feel. Yeah, what was your answers on that? Why do you think?
Well, exactly that, because our physical hearing capacity is only a certain range of frequency, hertz. It's 20 to 20,000. And anything beyond that is going outside of like, yeah, physical hearing dimensions. But like all of our senses, we can have extra sensory experiences. So to do that, it is like what you said, it's about being in harmony, it's about being fully present, it's about being connected to source. So people and Pythagoras, he spoke about hearing the music of the spheres as a palpable symphony in his experience. And many other great minds have experienced that. And it may not be something, I've experienced it a few times quite profoundly, but it's not something I'm always experiencing. It does come, I think, yeah, when the soul is in a particular energetic alignment. So, yeah, it's interesting. But have you heard of Rudolf Steiner?
Hmm. Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, so he's probably, yeah, a more recent powerful mind who spoke about like he was a creator of a whole education system, Rudolf Steiner.
Dinosaurs. Hmm.
Yeah, and he was a founder of biodynamic gardening, and anyway, he wrote 42 books and gave 6,000 lectures. But a huge part of his education system and what he lectured about was the music of the spheres. And he says that each night the soul is when it reaches a certain state of consciousness, it is immersed in what he calls the devashan, which is the world of pure tone. And that every single night we experience being immersed in the cosmic music. And yeah, each morning we, come out of that, we emerge out of that experience. But some of us and the student along the path of consciousness will learn to acquire the continuity of consciousness, to have awareness, to bring that awareness of that experience through to the physical. So many of us are constantly immersed in that music and experience it all the time. But the experiences of having the consciousness of remembrance when you awaken to that, immersion is, something that will happen when you're along a certain level of consciousness, or you're at a certain level of consciousness, and you bring that remembrance through.
And I guess like having experiences with the pork, like you do, helps the body remember that consciousness as well. So it's like our body can
Yeah,
get into those states. So I bring people through with breath and energy into the dimensions, and then we can start feeling and hearing that sound as well, because the gateways are open. Um,
yeah,
so I guess when you're sleeping as well, your gateways are open. And in the experiences that you give, you're opening all the gateways as well. And then the body can start remembering how it's
yeah,
done with that. Yeah. So I feel like the more that we do these things, the more maybe we can be in touch with that harmony.
absolutely. What I find is really quite profound is when people first hear these frequencies, a lot of people are like, whoa, I feel like I've heard this before. Like it speaks to something deep within the soul. And it's like, oh, this feels like home, this feels like my source home. And it's, yeah, it awakens something deep within the soul and the spirit.
Re-remembering of various
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
because we're all connected to it all, aren't we?
we
Mm.
sure are.
Mhm.
But yeah, I find, I have worked with acupuncture for so many years and I love it. But for me, it's quite a yang system. You're using a metal that's quite penetrative
Mhm.
in the body. Whereas when using sound, it's more yin, it's more soft and feminine. And because sound travels 4 times faster in water than it does in air, and our bodies are just such a huge percentage of water, when we use sound vibration, it's running through our whole water network system. And the waters carry our emotions, they're a memory resonator. So when people are hearing these tones and experiencing through their body, it really touches on people's emotions and the stored deep emotions that really need to be brought up and released.
I was seeing that in my visions then when I was tuning into you healing people, and that a lot of people would cry and have this
Yeah.
release going on with the beauty of it as well, and just that,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
I feel like, when you really touch people on that deeper emotional, spiritual level of what the stuff is that people are holding on that level, holding them back, and you help to really shift that out of the cellular waters and memory, that's when, a lot of the physical stuff falls away for people too, a lot faster.
Yes, all the disease is linked really to emotions and to the mind, isn't it? That
Yeah.
causes the frequency in the body, which then starts taking matter, which starts turning into a disease and a physical symptom. But I love how you say that,
Mm.
because water has memory, so that makes complete sense that we can change the whole memory pattern of the body through these frequencies.
Yeah,
That's fascinating.
absolutely. Yeah, reset our whole cellular blueprint. We can, the souls come in with such a divine, purposeful blueprint, but it often gets accumulation of, belief systems that we carry from different experiences. I'm not good enough. I'm not going to do this, or, you know, life's experiences accumulate in the cellular waters, and then the blueprint DNA doesn't really get that potential to really flourish and yeah, follow that path.
think this is an important thing to for people to realize is that our DNA can change with our surroundings. Our DNA can change with our mindset and the frequencies around us. So I feel like this whole frequency, which is an ancient technology, is really the way of
Mm.
the future. And they're uncovering more and more information about how levitation was used and how things were created just with frequency in the Annunaki
Yes.
Sumerian times. And so this healing method, I feel like, is so advanced, but also so ancient. And it's really exciting
Mm.
that you're doing it. And so you're teaching it to others as well. Is it a cert-
Yeah, so it is a certification program that I teach, and there's quite a lot of levels. There's about 10 levels and elective classes, so it's like quite a huge program. And it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. But it is like this whole exploration, like you're learning about Nibiru and the origins of humanity, and Sedna, you're learning about the poles and the shift. And yeah, so it's quite an in-depth personal healing exploration and but very sciencey too. We've got Chinese medicine and music theory in there and depth psychology, but there's sacred geometry. It's like this whole conglomeration of all the humanistic sciences put together into this one thing, which is sound and vibration, the foundation of everything in the universe, which
wow.
was the technology before everything got so separated. And all the wisdom, the deep wisdom was infiltrated into different segments, and you study this and you study this and you study this, and no one can see the bigger picture. That's what happened over the last 1,000 years, is this whole segregation of this knowledge. And now we've got our biologists not speaking to you know the physicists, quantum physicists are, speaking to all of this aspect that we're talking about, but they're not speaking to the biologists, and they're not speaking to this system. So none of this wisdom is being reintegrated into education. It's still being kept very separate.
Mm-hmm. And I love where science merges with spirituality. And I love this. This is like history merged with physics, merged with science, merged with spirituality. Uh,
Yeah.
I love that. And all the wisdom in the sound, because first, before anything, it was frequency, sound, and light. And that's it, isn't it? So they're the master
Correct.
teachers, really.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been teaching in Australia for coming up to 12 years now. So
Mhm.
yeah, I when I found this system, I realized there was no one teaching it in Australia, and I had to travel to New Mexico to do all the teacher training and brought it back to Australia. And I've been now spreading it here, and it's just been, yeah, slowly evolving and growing. And yeah, there's now practitioners all over Australia working with this system. And yeah, some people, I get a lot of different people from different backgrounds. I do get Chinese medicine, music therapists, body workers, energy healers, psychologists. I've even had some doctors and vets use it, come and learn it too, because it's great on animals. Horses love it and dogs love it. But, it's something that's also not just can be used for people, but for environments and for our food, the growing of food, using sound in the whole fermentation process of food growth. And yeah, it can be used to, heal our environment as well. And I think is going to be a huge part in healing the planet. A lot of, the pollution that's happened, we can actually heal it with frequency.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Hey, that's fascinating. So if we had like a big power plant, oh gosh, maybe that's what the pyramids could be used for, but a big power plant that emits a certain frequency, we could heal the pollution.
Yes.
Wow. And I don't know why I'm channeling the pyramids here, like that's important, but I really do feel like they could be an amplifier for sound, and maybe they were at one stage because they do talk to
Mm.
pyramids and they're all placed strategically around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Frequency.
That's the key. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And so when people are working with these frequencies, do they end up choosing maybe one planet that they work more with that's aligned to them?
It's kind of like a whole vibrational. I look at the person like a canvas, and I've got all these frequencies, and I'm tuning into the energy, and I am specifically putting different frequencies in different places or organ systems or meridians depending on where they're at, to basically create a vibrational masterpiece with someone's energetic. So it's never usually just one frequency, because on an energetic perspective, we're very complex beings, and we might have one meridian that, like the liver, can tend to get stagnated and hot. So I might use like cooling, full moon, and Neptune, and like subdue, or zodiac, which moves the energy. But then the kidney energy might be really low, so I might use frequencies that build and tonify here. And then that system might be a little bit underactive. So yeah, it all really comes down to basically the analysis of energy and the balance of opposites.
Mm.
So, if somebody's energy is not moving, it's stuck, then I use dispersive moving frequencies. Or if someone's system's cold and their body's numb and nothing's fueling and nothing's firing, I'll get the sun in there and warm it up. But most people's bodies have, you know, different patterns going on in different places. So it's like being an alchemist to really fine tune what needs to go where in the body.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like this is just all part of the Great Awakening, isn't it? Helping people come into their full gifts and heal their bodies. And I love that you're saying you can heal the environment with it as well. Um, yeah, incredible. And I want to delve a little bit more into the planets, um, and the astrology. So how does the astrology line up with this?
Well, you could say that, yeah, back from, yeah, we've got information on the planets back from Sumerian times, the first civilization post the flood. Speaking about the energies of the planets in the tablets. But then I guess from then on, humanity has, developed astrology over thousands of years in the observation of what is going on the earth and in people's bodies at certain times when planets are in certain positions or in certain relationship to each other, like the geometry. So it's been a, developed science over thousands of years. But like we could say, a lot of people recognize Mars as a planet of war and energy, but whenever Mars is in certain, positions to other planets, we have particular energies that might play out. But I guess it's over time that certain correspondences have presented themselves in relationship to each planet as a being, as a consciousness.
Mm.
So the consciousness of Neptune, is the watery ocean, and it's all about the merging into the oneness and connection with source. So, Neptune rules our lymphatic system and connects to, yeah, the cerebral spinal fluid. And, I use Neptune to actually dissolve hardenings in the body. Like if we have fluid accumulation in the body, in Chinese it's called damp accumulation, that can generate cysts or fibroids or tumors or hardenings, of water,
Mm.
or fibroids or things like that, cysts. So I've seen cysts, just within one treatment of getting Neptune applied to it, because Neptune dissolves, it has the energy of merging into the oneness. So it rules Pisces and the 12th house. So it's like the dissolution of the ego and the merging of matter. So,
Okay,
so I can use Neptune like in the body when there is hardenings and there's things, and it can dissolve. So, I've seen cysts and tumors just dissolve with that frequency.
amazing. And I guess, even on things like cancer, these frequencies are going to have an amazing effect as well. Instead of using the old the Western way where we're poisoning our bodies, and this is using your body as a tool to heal itself.
Hmm.
It needs to heal itself, which I'm so about. Our Western society is all about just putting a band-aid on the
Exactly. Yeah,
healing.
that's why I'm so passionate about this system. A lot of people might even just come to learn for their own self-care or to be able to treat themselves and their family and loved ones. And for me, it's like a universal first aid kit of frequency, that if you have a headache, instead of taking something from the pharmaceutical industry and that's going to cause other bad problems in your body, we can use frequency on ourselves all the time for common complaints that people see all the time. I've got period pain or I'm feeling low in energy. We can quickly work on our energetic grid and create changes very, very quickly in how we're feeling and what we're experiencing
So does
through
the
frequency.
frequency go into the chakra and help the chakra activate to heal that part of the body?
So, I guess we can call the chakra like major acupuncture points. They're major energetic vortex energies, but I don't just work with chakras, so I work with the whole meridian system and an understanding of the meridian system. Like when we look at what a point energetically does, we can really fine tune what frequencies we might use. I'll give you an example. So this point, a lot of people know this point. This is on the large intestine meridian, and a lot of people might know this point. They might press it if they've got a headache or something. So this is large intestine 4, and this is a point, when you press in it, you can feel there's a lot of stuck energy there. So it's a point where energy kind of accumulates. And so when we stimulate this point, it helps to disperse stuck energy in the body. So it's what we call like a master chi moving point, which is really good for stress and pain and tension or any contraction of energy. A lot of like modern day research has shown that the stimulation of this point actually releases our endorphins, our natural painkiller hormones. So for example, when I was first studying Chinese medicine, I seen a video of a Chinese man who was getting surgery. His whole skull was open and he was conscious and he was just having this point stimulated.
No way. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've been to the dentist recently and I can't stand getting the needle, the analgesic. So I'm like, hey, doc, dentist, you don't mind if I just put a needle in here and for my pain relief? And they're like, yeah, sure. But so yeah, this is known as a master chi moving point. So anytime there's stuck energy, we can do this point. So knowing that point is all about moving of energy, and I'm only going to choose it if somebody needs that. It's also a master point for the head and face, and it really treats the channel runs up and ends here, so it treats any issues in the face like toothache or earache or pain, swelling in the face or something. So knowing that it's all about moving, I would choose a frequency that is also dispersive to kind of amplify the original function of that point. So yeah, these tuning forks I have these weights on the end that when I activate them, because I'll give you a comparison.
Yeah, can't wait to see.
Well, this is a high frequency Venus fork. So high, when I activate this one, the frequency just permeates around, but the ones that have the weights on it, it is designed to send the vibration to the tip for direct application to the body.
Oh, right.
So so now these ones aren't as dispersive in the sound, they're directed down. So now I can apply them directly to a point, and now I can feel that vibration like traveling through my whole arm up into my face.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating. Wow. And it's still traveling now?
Yeah, still going.
Uh,
And then the unweighted forks are used in the energy field. So you can actually work with the chi. You know, our bodies are much bigger than just our skin. Our field comes out, and we can actually stimulate chi above a point and work with stuck emotional energy or spiritual energy that's stored in the energetic field. So we can intentionally work with the chi and, clear
hmm
energy.
hmm So is it like it pulls it out as well, or it just disperses it?
Well, it depends on what frequency you're using and what your intention is.
hmm
So
Okay.
intention is everything, and frequency is also important.
Hmm
So if I'm using like a dispersive frequency, it might do that, but I could also be using a frequency that's like really nourishing or yes, calming or softening or something like that. Like Venus is anti-inflammatory and she's all about taking a breath and smelling the roses and coming into the beingness and the softness and the feminine.
That's so nice. Oh, I think I'm definitely gonna have to experience one of these sessions for sure. And
Yeah.
it's interesting that you say, it's frequency and intention because our emotions are frequencies as well. And I get this like when you're wishing, you're wanting to wish or you're wanting to manifest, that you've got to have that emotion behind it. You've got to have the intention and then you've got to have the frequency behind it as well to make that alchemy.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Frequency plus intention equals healing. And I think, we'll get to the point in evolution where our intention can just be so, so, so powerful that we don't need frequency, but frequency just amplifies intention so
Yeah.
dramatically. But I'll give you a little demonstration. Like this is Mars, high frequency Mars and high frequency Venus. So Mars, Venus, and together, like, Mars is masculine and the being in the head and the blood and the defense system and the get up and fight energy and courage and all of these things. And Venus is softening and feminine and calming. But together they create what they call the perfect musical fifth, like the divine harmony of
The
frequency.
masculine and the feminine, divine masculine, divine feminine frequency.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's beautiful. Wow. So it's almost like they wrap around each other.
Yeah. So these are really great for just general chakra balancing too. But Mar- Mars rules the adrenals and Venus rules the kidney energy. And Chinese medicine, the kidney energy is known as that life force, the longevity, and the elixir of life. The philosopher's stone of immortality is all about the kidney, topping up the kidney energy. So we keep that strong. But this is the most powerful combination for building our life force as well and building back that chi that we lose. Yeah, because I believe that can be, yeah, that whole process of aging can be
Yeah,
eradicated.
it can. It really can. And I do this. This is reminding me of Kundalini. So the masculine and the feminine frequencies, and I'm guessing that that would be in the Kundalini too, and maybe those forks would bring it on as well. But in that
Mm,
frequency of the masculine and the feminine wrapping around each other, and it activates all that cerebral fluid, and
yeah.
yeah, it reverses. It does reverse the aging. Oh, I mean,
Mm,
look at me, I'm 65. No.
yeah.
But definitely, yeah, frequencies all the way. Well, that was an absolutely fascinating conversation. And where can people find you if they'd like to have a session or they'd like to talk to you? Do you only do in-person sessions? Is that how you deliver things or?
So I'm in Ocean Shores, northern New South Wales. And yeah, I've got a beautiful treatment room here that I treat in person. I also do online sessions and astrology readings and things like that. I do in person Acutonics trainings here. And I'm also just about to release, the last month's been filming because I used to, through COVID, I went all online with my teaching and I'll do live online training. But I've just done some professional filming to better deliver the content, because with the foundation of Acutonics there's so much to it, and having people on a computer for days on end is too much. So I've professionally filmed it in like module content, so it can be like absorbed in sections and people can get the forks and learn at home as well, and be able to start to implement it into their work and their life.
Oh,
So yeah,
wonderful.
I'll be releasing that soon
Mhm.
as well. But so you can find me at Acutonics Australia, Acutonics
Mhm.
Australia. So my website and social media is Acutonics Australia.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, I think what you're doing in the world is absolutely needed. And this information, this teaching should be worldwide for us to all discover. And yeah, when we're
Mm.
healing ourselves, we're healing our family, we're healing our community. So incredible. So, and people can find you on the socials too, I'm guessing.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
Facebook and Instagram, Acutonics Australia.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you
Mm.
so much for being here.
Such a
Um,
pleasure.
I love talking about all the planets and the Nephilim and Nibiru, and I just feel like all this stuff's going to come more and more into light. So, um, yeah, thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.